everyone. Welcome to another episode of Breaking the Ceiling, a place where we get to know the entrepreneurs behind the brands. Today, I have somebody very special with me. These are two individuals, husband and wife dynamic duo, that have changed the perception of high quality breads in the country. They are the ones who introduced one of the best sourdoughs in the country. They've sold 1 million plus sourdoughs in India, and they are literally the brand that my kids will not have food without. Please welcome the co-founders and husband and wife from Baker's Dozen, Aditi Handa and Sneh Jain. Welcome to Breaking the Ceiling.
Hi, Ashwin.
Thank you, Ashwin. Hi,
Hey,
Ashwin. Thank you for having us.
and it's absolute pleasure. So, by the way, when I say my kids are fans, I've been a fan right since you guys opened up, and one of your first stores was in Prabhadevi. Like I remember there one being in Prabhadevi, and I've kind of lived around there my whole life. So I remember that bakery shop kind of look and feel, and the products that you had were fantastic. So before we jump into Baker's Dozen, I would love to know the story of you. So Aditi, let me start with you. Tell me about your life before Baker's Dozen and how you and Sneh met. I would love to get to know y'all a little better.
So I was actually studying psychology in England, and I was back home one summer, and that's how I met Sneh. Sneh was at that point doing his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and my father, who's a professor of entrepreneurship on IIM Ahmedabad campus, happened to be his professor. So that's how we ended up meeting. It was very, very strange, but clearly quite eventful. When I finished my education, I came back in the year 2009, and the first project or the first venture I took up was to put up a college merchandise store on the IIM Ahmedabad campus.
Oh,
So
lovely.
right from conceptualizing, coming up with the product, this was supposed to be very similar to the kind of college merchandise store you would find in Harvard or Boston, and
Exactly.
it was lots of fun because you had this plethora to do what you felt like, right? You designed the store, you designed the products,
Mhm.
you actually bring it into operations, and once we kind of stabilized it and made it operationally profitable, we gave it back to the institute as part of my dad's alumni contribution to the place.
Oh, wonderful.
So yeah,
Oh,
that was
I didn't know that. That's brilliant. So I'm from UT Austin, right? And I always missed having that kind of stores where they have all
yeah.
orange merchandise with a UT Austin has this color called the burnt orange, and it has hook and horns or the longhorn, which is a symbol. So when I came back from US, like half my clothes were like burnt orange and had the longhorn symbol. But I never saw that in India. So I'm glad you actually started that. I think that's brilliant.
That was my inspiration because when I was in England, I used to collect souvenirs, whether it was from colleges or even when you're traveling. You go to Paris, you go to London, you buy these little miniatures, and I said, why don't we have any of this in India? So it was more like a hobby which I had, which kind of translated into a business at some
Mm.
point.
Mm. Awesome. And then how did you move from there to, what did you do after that?
So once the store was up and running and we transferred it, it was more or less at the same time when Sneh and me got married, and then I moved to Bombay. And we actually moved to Canada for about 7, 8 months because he was on a project with McKinsey at that point.
Mhm.
And I think it's during that point where both of us said, kind of, let's give up the old parts of our life and let's get together to start a new business. So that's how Baker's Dozen in a way got conceptualized.
Awesome. So, Sneh, tell me a little bit about you before Baker's Dozen.
So, Ashwin, actually, my life till 2012 was a classic middle class, story of India, right? So, parents are doctors. I had to either become a doctor or an engineer.
Uh-huh.
So, then I said there should at least be one patient in the house. So, I decided to become an engineer. Uh, did that, did my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, got selected into McKinsey, did the classic consultant job for 2.5 years. And then I think that's when reality strikes, right? You said, I can't work on another presentation anymore. And that's when the switch happened. Actually, just to add to Aditi's point, we always so our meeting story is actually just like literally 5 words or something. It is 5 point someone of Chetan Bhagat plus 2 states. So if you literally combine those two, so there are scenes in 2 states where, for example, our parents met at my convocation.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And it is that classic, two different religions, though they were all on board in this case.
Uh-huh.
But we should charge for copyright.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
But anyway, was with McKinsey, and then there was this. I still remember. Consulting has a lot of these. They keep doing a lot of personal development programs, right?
Mhm.
And there was one. There was one program where they told us they gave us a lot of Lego blocks, and they told us make what you want to be or you see yourself doing in 3 years, 5 years time, and they gave us Lego blocks of variety, right? And I actually ended up making a factory with chimneys. So I don't know, how and when, but it was literally, you have this one of those science project
Uh,
factories,
uh,
right? And then you have a chimney and all of that, right? And there were quite cool cars in front in the parking and all of that, right? So, and then when they asked what is this, and I said, it's my factory. And at that time, I think there was a realization that so I wanted to build something, and it had to be something tangible or touch and feel to the product. And that's actually immediately, I think next week is when I resigned and moved out of McKinsey.
so it's interesting how a thought building exercise made you like
Yeah,
realize that this is not what
exactly. I
I
I, I don't think that was the aim of the exercise. I think they just wanted us to become better consultants. So yeah.
I'm very sure after that they must have rethunk. Let's not do this again.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, how did you all, Sneh, how did you come up with the idea of a bakery or creating products, food products?
So actually, it was very basic first principles, Ashwin, in our case. So when we both of us in 2012, around the same time, we said that we want to now look at doing something entrepreneurial, and we actually listed down sectors. So we said, there is food. So I'm a pharmaceutical engineer, so pharma came very naturally to me. There was food. We did like the classic roti kapda makan. What is recession proof? All of that, right? But that's when one discussion happened, and both of us felt that food was an area of passion. Aditi is obviously, and she can add to that, is more passionate from the actual taste and product point of view, while my passion was completely in making the brand, right? And food kind of fit that bill. And within food, we felt, if you look at the bakery industry, Ashwin, even today in India, to be honest, there's not a very single national brand. You have your Britannias of the world and all, but that's still more biscuits, more cookies, things like that. But it's not classic bread. You have a lot of local favorites. I grew up having bibs, right? So, there are a lot of these local guys, but you don't have anybody who's at a national level, and especially on the premium side of the segment. And that's where we felt bakery was an interesting gap.
All right. And so, Aditi, how did you decide like this, like bakery, and I'm going to be creating products when he's going to do this? How did that kind of come up?
So actually, to be honest, I kind of always knew that I would do a business or be an entrepreneur. I used to always joke, that no one's going to ever hire me, so I have no other option but to start on my own. Having said that, when we decided that let's start a bakery, we felt none of us come from a culinary background. So we felt very strongly that at least one of us needs to be trained technically.
Mhm.
That was quite central to the way we wanted to conduct the business. And we found this dedicated bread baking program in New York, and I went there not really with the intention to learn. It was like let's be one of those well-informed managers. It was quite superficial at that
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
But once I went there and once I started my classes, and I remember it was, I think, the fifth day of me baking, and I was baking a French sourdough.
Mhm.
And in that moment, I knew that the whole purpose of my life, the purpose of my being, was to bake bread. Not even to sell it. Honestly, couldn't be bothered whether we sell it or not. I just wanted to bake bread.
Uh,
And that was like a very spiritual experience. And I said, okay, baker is my purpose in life. I wrote to my family saying that when I come back, we're going to start a bakery, but this bakery is only going to make the best and most authentic bread and nothing else.
so, Aditi, how did you come up with the name Baker's Dozen?
So I actually, if I remember right, I think the name, finding the name was something that's needed. If I remember correctly, we were shortlisting lots of names, and the branding agency we had on board, and they were helping us with it. And when the name Baker's Dozen came up, and a dozen for a baker's dozen it means 13 and not 12. We took it as a symbol of going the extra mile, going a little bit overboard, not just in your product but in your philosophy, in the way you present yourself. So I always tell people that one of the best gifts Sneha's ever given me is literally the name Baker's Dozen.
The best gift.
Ashwin, quite a cheap gift to give na initially.
I know. I was like, really, that's the best gift. I said, I think I
No
don't buy it.
starters. No,
I
no.
don't get it as well. I need to learn from Sneha a little bit. I love the name. I love how you guys have presented yourself. But I'm very sure that now you all have reached a certain size and you all are growing faster. But Sneha, tell me a little bit about the challenges that you faced when you all started.
So one big thing, Ashwin, was we were almost creating the market, right? That bread even in 2013 when we started, literally most of India was still waking up to multigrain, right? White bread was common, brown bread was something which had kind of become a fad in a way, and multigrain was far fetched. And here we were coming with handmade sourdough loaves with French sounding names and things like that. So it took a lot of time for us to educate people. Involved a lot of door-to-door sampling, talking to customers. So Aditi and me have personally, literally entire Prabhadevi area, all the complexes that are there. So we used to find people living in those complexes through contacts, tell them that please send a mail in your group and get us entry into your this. And in the morning at 7 o'clock, Aditi and me would go to each and every house and just keep a loaf of bread outside the door. Uh, right, and we did this almost across, I think, 1,000 houses, right? And every time it was, like some people would even wake up, they would open the door and they'd say, Aap kaun? And we'll be like, Auntie, bus, we are new bakers. Try kar lena. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, so be it, kind of. Uh, but I think that experience was great. So though it was a challenge, but that customer learning and feedback was something which was great. And the second one, I would say to add as a challenge was I think we obviously were a bit naive in the retail sphere, Ashwin. It's very easy to say, we started Prabhadevi, it was doing well, Bandra, Kemps Corner, and we said, okay, let's do one thing, let's put 10 stores across Bombay. Right, and that's when you realize that retail has its own cost dynamics, and we realize it's a very very neighborhood product. You're not going to travel more than maybe 1 kilometer for a loaf of bread, right? That's also a stretch, right? It's not like a jewelry or clothes, which is a dedicated purchase. So I think these were some realizations, learnings, challenges that we faced.
That is, I think, those early learnings are actually set the tone for the rest of your journey, right? Because the things you learn from those initial 100, right, customers, they literally give you, it's like an MBA in retail or an MBA in product design or whatever it is. So I read about this concept called the law of 100, right? Like if you want to create a fantastic product, if you want to create anything, at least meet 100 customers, 100 readers, 100 purchasers, whoever it is, and you will learn so much from them about your product that you will not learn from any other market research. You can't hire an agency and ask them to figure it out. It's that in person learning that you get. There's nothing that replaces that. So Aditi, while these challenges would have taught you all a lot, tell me a few proud moments for you and Sneh at the Baker's Dozen.
So mine is a little bit of a personal one, to be honest. I grew up in a slightly industrious family in Ahmedabad, so I was always known as my father's daughter or my uncle's daughter. Then when I got married to Sneh and moved to Bombay, most of the people I knew they were through him, so I was always known as Sneh's wife. And when we started the Baker's Dozen, within a few months, people started knowing me for me. And when you move to a city like Bombay, which is so massive, and you create your own identity, where they think bread, they think of you, and they say, Acha, you are Aditi's friend, Acha, you are Aditi's cousin, you are Aditi's father. That feels really good. So to me, as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a newcomer to a city like Bombay, I found that to be a very big motivation in life.
That is, I think, one of the best things I've heard. And I relate to that very closely is because you have a very weird last name. right? And somebody meets me like back in the day, like I studied in UT Austin, I did my MBA, and then I came back to India. I was the good son, and I worked at my parents' business. Anywhere I went, the minute I gave my card, I introduced myself, the conversation would turn around and it would be around my dad or my mom and something that they did. And my father had taught me this concept of the sun and the moon, right? The sun gives out light, moon only reflects it. And about 6 months in the business, I realized that, hey, I'm never going to be the sun, right?
Hmm.
And literally, I mean, figuratively, yes, I was the sun, but literally, I'm never going to be actually, the other way now. Figuratively, the sun, literally, I was obviously sun, but I actually left the business, and I'm not even kidding you, in 10 seconds. It was a 10-second conversation. But I literally said these words in Aquatech, I'm never going to be the sun. I'm always going to be the moon. And he understood what I was saying. He said, okay, go do your own thing. Right. And the proudest moment I had is when I actually came on BBC. And for the first time ever, my dad saw me on TV. I'd come on TV before, but he had never seen me. But he saw me on BBC for the first time. And, he was like super proud of me. And that really changes. And, then like, hey, all this trouble that you're going through was kind of worth it and you're headed in the right direction. So I think that's a fantastic proud moment. I'm really happy you shared that with me. But Sneh, any other proud moments? Any different proud moments?
From the brand point of view, Ashwin, see, you can get awards, you can get those things, right? But for me, the days that I really love the most is when we open a store. That first day. So we just opened our store in Bangalore, and this is our biggest store till date, 2 weeks ago. And that first 1 or 2 days, when customers walk in and either they are just wow by the experience, or they'll come and tell you, oh, we just had this yesterday, from there or something like that. I think that customer love is unparalleled, right? That the high that it gives you. Awards and all have their own place, but I think that high is different.
And as long as you enjoy that high and that customer love is what drives you,
Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever run out of steam, right? So tell me, Sneh, tell me a little bit about any upcoming projects that you have, any new products, anything new that you all are planning that you want to share.
So, Ashwin, what has happened over the last 1 year, right? Especially kind of obviously, COVID shook up a lot of things. But in our case, what it kind of gave us a very clear focus and direction to the brand now, where we are now clear that we want to go down the D2C route. We are already on our way. We have grown from 3 stores to 40 stores in the last 1 year, right? And now the plan is, so the idea is that we should be in most pin codes in major cities in India, present directly as the brand. Right? Retail has its place. Partners have their place. We will continue to work over there. But the brand love that you get as a D2C brand, and especially in the bakery segment where nobody has done it till now.
Correct.
Right. So that's the main, I would say, the project in a way, and the next 2-3 year plan, right? Within that, obviously, then you support it with digital infrastructure. We are, website, app. We are working on a data science capability in-house, in terms of machine learning and AI, to actually predict both so customer retention and churn and things like that. And also, being a perishable product manufacturer, we need to look at demand forecasting, right? That's where the crux of the business is for us. You have to draw that fine line between overstocking and losing out on sales, right? So these are very interesting projects that are ongoing, and that's why I think the last 1 year and the next 2 years are going to be the most exciting till now.
So I love the fact that as a bakery and as a bread company, you actually are looking at data science and ML and those very interesting things. And it reminds me of something I saw 2 years ago. It was a video, and I think it was Kunal Shah from Craig who said it. Hey, in the next 5 years, no matter what business you are, if you do not have an in-house technology team, you will perish. You will not see the next 5 years, right? And so, funny enough, we are a laboratory, but we have a 20 people in-house tech team, and we are creating so much of what our processes are all in-house. We're creating all our products in-house, our own CRM, our own ERP, our own everything is done in-house, and the leverage it gives you is fantastic. We're able to do so much more because of that. And I'm so happy to hear that you guys are doing something very similar. And by the way, when you do roll that out, the computer nerd in me would love to play with it, tinker with it, and see how you have done it, right? So thank you for sharing that. That is just fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to that. So, Aditi, tell me a little bit about, if you could go back in time, right? You could travel back in time. The three things you would tell your 18-year-old self. What would that be?
So, very honestly, if I had to go back in time and say something to my 20-year-old self, would be to continue doing whatever I was doing at 20, which was studying a little bit but having lots of fun. And I think it's so important because I kind of got all the musty out of my system at a time when you could get away with it. And now, when it comes to really being able to concentrate on your family, on your work, and you get a little time to be by yourself and really enjoy, I feel very satisfied that I got to live that part of life. So I always say, okay, it is good. Whatever you did was good. Don't really change much of it.
Awesome. But anything else, any other learning you want to share? One more learning that you want to share, or like if you knew that then things may have been different, or something else you want to go back and tell.
So I feel, at that point when I was studying, I was enjoying studying, but I was not really falling in love with it. And I think that happened only towards my final year when I had a professor who, like, I really was enjoying what she was teaching and getting very excited by it. And I felt that if people can find, even when they're studying a subject that they're passionate about, they will learn so much more. Not the exam tick mark thing, actual learning that you do when you read a subject.
That is phenomenal. So something that I have been doing for the last 10 years is every single day before I go to sleep, I write down something I've learned that day. And
Yeah.
if I have nothing to write down, if I didn't learn anything, I actually stay up, like I do not fall asleep till I don't learn something new that day. And it could just be something as simple as a recipe, like because I make breakfast for my kids, so hey, like tomorrow I'll try this out or something.
Yeah.
Something new doesn't always have to be work related. And that practice has literally changed the way I work and operate because I can always look back and be like, oh, 2 years ago, I learned this, and I have a habit at least once in a week, kind of ruffle through the pages and see what I've learned in the past. And I have found that to be super, super different.
That is so true because I feel at this point in life, I'm just so greedy to learn and I will find opportunities anywhere. And maybe if my 20-year-old self was as greedy, life would have been a bit more different. But I think that, that greed, that thirst for knowledge, that knowledge is very, very important.
Very true. I loved how you said greedy to learn. I'm going to use
Yeah.
that. I loved how you phrased that. So, Sneh, tell me a little bit about a superpower you and Aditi have, individually or together, that most people may or may not know.
One thing which Ashwin, so in a partnership, and obviously being husband wife, that kind of has its own added complications in our case, especially with the business. But when I talk about Aditi, right, the one thing is, so she's extremely passionate about the product, which is a fact which is quite well known now, and everybody knows that about. But where I'm amazed by her is that she's equally grounded or detail oriented when it comes to business. So, you can have people who are very passionate about the product, and they'll be like, whatever it is, I'm going to sell this, this is my ingredient, this is the costing, etc., right? And actually, in most discussions, she's the one who's asking me, what is the ROI on this, right? So and I'm supposed to be that person, right? But like I'm like, no, we have to do this, I'm on my own high, and Aditi is like, that the grounding that is required key, before you kind of fly off into the sunset in a way, right? So that combination is something which is I've not seen anywhere.
It's always good when the person you're working with compliments you, compliments your strengths. That just amplifies what you all can do, the kind of impact you can have. So I liked how you told me something about Aditi. Why don't you share something about Sneh? I think that's a better way of doing this. So asking you what's your superpower. Why don't you tell me about Sneh's superpower?
So I love it how Snake doesn't have a limit when it comes to his dreaming. Like he'll just come up with the most ridiculous idea and say, okay, I want to do this. And I feel like this is like practically can't happen. And he's like, no, 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 this is something we're going to do. I mean, today we're making a handmade bread without using any preservatives, and this is traveling all over India and giving a sustainable shelf life naturally. All this has happened because someday Sneh decided that I want to go pan India, and I was like, no, I'm going to be very ziddy. My product can't have preservatives. And I felt because he dreamt something, and I felt like, okay, I want to find a way to execute it. We came up with a fabulous product out there. So I love it how he can dream without any barriers.
So the combination you all have reminds me of me and my wife. My wife, Dr. Priyanka, she's also my co-founder and my CEO. I remember about 9 years ago, we were operating in Prakadevi, unique investor in the state. We had like this 800 square foot unit, like 3 units put together, 890 square feet. And I remember then standing in front of a smaller team and making a claim saying, hey, in the next 2 years, we are going to move into our own building. It's going to be a 20,000 square foot facility. And everyone's looking at me that they're like 15, 20 people, like, how the hell are you going to afford it and how are we going to make it happen? So I made this big announcement, but she actually got down to the nitty gritty, sat with the architect, got everything done. And we were actually able to build Equinox today, which is a 20,000 square foot facility and one of the larger ones in the country. Right. So it's you need the dreamer, but you also need the doer. Right. If you have only one of them, sometimes it doesn't work. So I'm glad that you have that dynamic duo going on. And I think that is what is going to help you all to scale new heights, right? So Aditi, tell me a little bit about your work-life balance. I know you have two kids, twins, twin boys. That will be a handful. Then you have a dog. And how do you manage all of this? How does that work?
It's a very difficult challenge, and to think that I manage it is probably just fooling myself. I don't think I manage it. I happen to just, accept reality for what it is. But I think I have a fabulous family and a fabulous team who've supported me through a lot of the difficult times. When I got pregnant, I had to take a few months off work, and my manufacturing team really took over everything, and they did a fabulous job. Once the kids were born, I took a year and a half off work after that. And again, Sneh and my team were very hands on. They said, listen, if you need the time to be a mom and enjoy that and experience that, it's totally okay. We'll manage the work front. And when I had to get back to work, and it's very, very difficult for a woman to get back to work, not just from the whole operational aspect, but there's a huge guilt that you feel of abandoning your child and coming to work. And I think this is where my parents and Snake's parents really helped out where they said, listen, you go to work and we'll look after the kids, we'll take turns. So I felt like there was a really good support system for me, and that is more than what I can ask for. And obviously, there are days when you want to be doing more work and you can't, or you want to be spending more time with your kids and you can't, but that's part of life and you accept it. You will never reach the ideal. You just try to be happy with what's the best you could create. And I also negotiate with my kids accordingly, where I tell them, listen, I have to do this, you have to do this, and they learn to figure that around too, and we're all happier for it.
So I've heard the phrase, it takes a army or a village to raise a child. I think you must be having two armies or two villages to make that happen. So I have two kids, and they're not twins, but they're 3 years apart. And it actually does take a small army to make sure that they're fine and they're having fun. So what is the you know how is that affecting work? Are your kids involved in work? Do they come into the bakery? Do they? I know they're very small, but are they, are they trying to be involved? Are they like, understanding? Do you use them as guinea pigs with new breads?
So they love eating our cookies if that makes a difference. But no, not really. See, the past year and a half has also been really difficult because they've not really gotten out of the house. I don't really feel comfortable for them to come to the plant and things like that right now. But where I feel like, after a long day of work, when you come home and you see the musty that they've been up to, and they're obsessed with sharks and whales, and when they show you a book and say, Mama, I found a shark and I know what's in the ocean, you feel so good. Like, what's name mentioned, when you meet a customer, you get such fulfillment. I feel like I did a great job at work, but once you come home, you realize your kids are all that you really want. Everything's worth it when you see them.
Absolutely. So last 3 days, I've been literally staying at work because we were going through an audit, and I wasn't supposed to come back last night. At around 8:30, my daughter sends me a picture, her writing in sand saying, "I miss daddy." I was like, I told the team, like, hey guys, you got this? They're like, yeah, yeah, we got it. Don't worry. You can come back tomorrow. You can come back later. I literally left and I came back and I was back home at 10 o'clock at night to put them to sleep. So I know how, kids can kind of, having kids pulls you, but it also, I think, makes you do better. And for me, it's made me a better person. It's somebody actually asked me, hey, what is the impact that you want to have? What is the legacy you want to leave behind? While the impact would be okay, make water, food, air safer. The legacy could be, hey, having kids, who are fantastic human beings, children who care, children who are proud of the work you do. And I think that would be the best legacy that we can actually leave our kids. So, Sneh, tell me a little about mentors. Do you have mentors in business? Are you all mentoring people? Like as you all grow, as you grew from one store to multiple, like what I think 40 stores. Did you have mentors in this process?
Absolutely. So, Ashwin, one is, McKinsey that way was a great breeding ground for me. I think the kind of people that come through that organization, and the varied levels of thinking, intelligence, different viewpoints that you get. So I think some of those folks, have been very instrumental in the journey till now. I think one of our biggest mentors also has been Aditi's dad. As Aditi mentioned, Ashwin, so he actually teaches entrepreneurship. He's been at IIM Ahmedabad for a long time, and now he teaches across India, across most institutes of repute. Uh, and one of the things that he's always very clear on the fundamentals of business, right? What happens, Ashwin, see, when you come from a background like mine, there are batchmates, there are seniors, juniors, and the landscape right now, right? People getting funded left, right, center, going through various cycles of growth, and when you are trying to chart a particular path, which might not be considered, the new normal, if I might say, right? That's when you need somebody stable to say, this is fine, you're on the right path, continue. So I think his understanding of these fundamentals and of mentoring, I think that's just fantastic. Uh, and what's also happened to your point on mentoring other folks, right? So I'll give you one small example that we are doing now, Ashwin. So in our Bangalore store, we have actually launched a specific area in the store which is called Friends of TBD. So what we do over there is we are finding local startups. So in Bangalore, we have found a few local women-led startups actually making very interesting products. There is somebody in essential oils, there is somebody in artisanal syrups, and we are providing them a retail platform through our store. Let them learn, let them talk to the customers, let them get feedback. What Aditi and me did ourselves 8 years back, we would like to provide that platform. So I think that's something which is working out very well, and it also keeps you excited, right? When you talk to people, which is, for example, what you are doing, right? It's always great to talk to people who are at the start of their journey, or moving ahead across along the same way.
So I didn't know about the Friends of TBD, but that program sounds really exciting. And I think you'd be giving platform and giving learning to so many new startups, right? Who would otherwise take maybe years to get there. You're getting them much faster. And I think that's the biggest role a mentor can play in somebody's life, right? So you touched upon funding. As an organization, have you all raised funds? Are you all looking to raise funds? Is that something you can share?
Ashwin, till now we are bootstrapped or self-funded. We have kind of remained on that journey and grown along the way along that. Yes, funding has its role. I think it can be a great enabler for a business. Absolutely no doubt about it. I think we have enough internally in terms of to just push the envelope a bit more, right? We want to keep growing it to a certain scale. I'm sure there will be a day when that happens. But I think we still have enough in the tank to fire away.
That is that is awesome. No, because when you said you grew from 2 to 40, I'm like, I think I smell an investment. But may have just been delicious bread. That kind of. And so, Aditi, tell me about what do next 5 years look like, right? For TBD and for both of you. What do you see 5 years from now?
So what's really been great in the past year and a half during the pandemic, this chapter of sourdough that we opened up in the year 2013, and we were trying to educate customers. Suddenly, that's accelerated a lot in the past year and a half. Eating healthy, eating authentic has just become like a way people want to live life, and that gives us a great platform to be able to ensure that everyone in India who wants to consume a bakery product, let it be a bread, let it be a cake, let it be a cookie, let them have something good and authentic. So I think we are currently in 8 cities, going deeper in these 8 cities and then developing beyond these eight is what we are looking at the horizon for the next 5 years. Whilst we do this, we want to be extremely on the D2C pathway where a direct communication with the customer is always the best way the brand can grow, because that's when you really know what works and what doesn't work. So I think this 40, maybe 100, 200, 500, some such figure. Just 40 to 400, yeah.
So when you said a D2C bakery, it reminded me, like in Europe, everywhere you have these local bakeries, and you know the baker, and you kind of browse around, and you take your time. And buying bread is an experience. I'm glad for bringing that, to India, because before this it was Ribs or Britannia. And, they have these couple of choices and not the healthiest of things. So and I love the way you put the word honest on your packaging. Right, it reminds me of this whole concept of clean label, where you're very clear on what you're putting in it, you're very open about it, and you're not putting any preservatives, and you're still getting great shelf life, and you're getting your products across. So I commend you on that. So my last question to you, Sneh, is going to be: what advice would you give the next generation of entrepreneurs who are entering the food business?
Uh, so one or two personal advices and then one or two work advices, Ashwin. So first, I would always say, and maybe when Aditi was talking about the advice to the 20-year-old self, and if there's a guy who's starting off business today, first I'll tell him to take a 6 month or a 1 year break and just travel the world. Go on a backpack, move out. So I did that for 3 months only, and I still think it was one of the best learning experiences I could have. I think the kind of exposure it gives you, it's just about the sights and sounds, right? I think that just tickles off at that age a lot of imaginary kind of, you just learn a lot, right? So that would be one. From a food entrepreneurship point of view, I think one thing which I've seen people maybe make a mistake in is that they assume that since me or my family likes a particular product, the customer or people will like it. Right now, we come from maybe from backgrounds where, let's say, you're eating a particular food or a particular taste, and you would say that that's what India should eat. But mostly, it's always very different, right? And the reality hits you once you have actually gone out. Now, yes, there's a fine line between the passion, but it has to be adjusted to that customer learning, and which is where maybe the concept of 100 that you were mentioning, right? So that you need to vet that out. And many times, I'll ask somebody who's just starting off, why do you think this will work? And they'll say, I eat it every day, my family eats it every day. But I'm like, that's not reason enough to start. So I would say, do a lot of market research, be passionate, but also be grounded on that.
Fantastic. So Aditi, your last advice to somebody entering the field?
I think whatever industry one starts a business is, be it food, be it IT, be it service, I think it's really important that the pulse of the business, the core of the business is something that you're technically sound in. This could be any business, like you're into testing, you need to understand what testing is all about, how it is conducted, what machine works, what equipment works, what chemicals work, and so on.
Okay.
So I feel like really know your product and become a master at it. Second is, when you talk to a customer, don't get into your defensive mode. Obviously, your first impulse is that, because if someone's trying to criticize you and you've developed something with so much love, it hurts. But try to go beyond that, if not in that moment, in a moment later. to see what is that the customer was getting bothered about. Was it that you were getting bothered about the taste or the service, or were they trying to explain a need which they also at times don't really truly understand? So listen to your customer very very carefully, and try to adapt that into your business, and then definitely you have a model that works.
So something I've been doing for about 15 years is every time I interact with the client, at the end, I always ask them, hey, what else is troubling you? If they're talking to me, either they're doing something new or there's a problem, something went wrong, and we're working on fixing it. But at the end, I always ask this question: hey, what else is troubling you? And the answers I've gotten have actually been the basis of us creating so many new services, so different ways of doing something, right? And so you really hit the nail on the head. Especially, I resonate with that completely. But that's something I've been practicing for over a decade, and it served me really well. So thank you both, for taking the time out, coming on the show. It serves as an inspiration to thousands of people who watch this show, where they get to know that, hey, when you're creating a brand like this, what are the inspirations? What is the blood, sweat, and tears you need to put? Some of the strategies you need to deploy. And when entrepreneurs share these insights, it helps, I think, the next generation of entrepreneurs start out at a slightly more elevated platform. I loved how you have friends of TPD and you're giving people a platform. So I would love to actually see that in multiple stores. I'm assuming you started this in a bigger store, but if this works, I'm assuming all your stores will have this little corner, where people can display products, and you yourself will become the new retail store, right? So, and I love the sense of community that you're bringing around food, around breads, around cookies, and fantastic range of products. Sometimes I have an unfair advantage of seeing what is coming out before, but the innovation that TPD has been doing is absolutely astounding, and the level of quality that you've maintained. Because even you've reached a certain volume, I've never seen any quality fail. Because again, I'm a regular consumer of the product. Right, so I actually try your products every day, so I know if something goes wrong, you will get a call. Till then, I've never called you or anyone at your team saying, "Hey, something went wrong." So I think that's kudos to both of you, and thank you for sharing so openly.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you. It was so much fun talking to you. You were like you're someone very easy and fun to talk to and be honest with.
Thanks a lot. So, guys, that was Aditi Handa and Sneh Jain, the co-founders and husband and wife duo from the Baker's Dozen. They've shared so many different insights today. Please go learn at least one thing from them, go apply it in your life, and hopefully you will break new ceilings. Thanks a lot, and see you in the next one.